Hello, very good evening to all of you. Today we will learn about the project's classification, that is taxonomy of project, types of project. We may classify the project in a different ways. We may classify the project based on national and international, that is national project and international project. We may classify the project based on industrial and non-industrial project. We may classify the project on the basis of the level of technology. We may classify the project based on purpose, that is balancing project, placement project, maintenance project, expansion project, diversification project. So we may classify the project in a different way. Now the question is, what do you mean by national and international projects? Easy. National projects is just domestic, and international project is the project which you want to set up in the other country. That is international project. So these days, the large industrial houses or government undertaking set up the projects in other country. And the projects which any either government or the private set up in other country is under the category of international project. Just as Indian companies invite the collaboration from foreign companies to set up plants, in the same way Indian companies extend their entrepreneurial skill outside the country's boundary to set up plant in host country. It is the case of Indian companies operating as multinational companies in other countries. We know that large industrial houses have set up manufacturing plant in other countries, like Tata. The Tata Group set up in Republic of Singapore to produce precision tools. Not only the large industrial houses, but even the public sector undertakings nowadays actively participating, actively collaborating either with the government or the local entrepreneurs in those countries, either in setting up production units or infrastructural facilities like building, like railway networks, like airports. In order to participate in international projects, one has to look for suitable opportunities. From where will you get the opportunities? From international fairs and exhibitions. These international fairs and exhibitions provide opportunities for undertaking international projects. So, setting up of different industries projects in another country which requires greater effort, is that the entrepreneur has to understand the conditions in that country and evaluate the prospects more carefully. If you do not know the conditions of that country, if you do not have the idea about the prospects of your product which you want to produce, then there may be very high risk. Maybe it is fatal. So the entrepreneurs have to have the risk tolerance capacity, because international projects has high risk and are of different nature. Now come to national projects, which is been classified in industrial and non-industrial projects. National projects can be classified into industrial and non-industrial projects. Non-industrial projects are those projects which is like healthcare projects. This healthcare project is not an industrial project, is not an industry. This healthcare project is the project to eradicate some disease like malaria, like tuberculosis. Educational project. This is also not industrial project. This is also non-industrial project. In educational project, we take it into consideration that adult education, which is non-industrial projects. Another is in the irrigation project, agriculture development, soil conservation projects. All these are treated as non-industrial projects. In the case of non-industrial projects, benefits you cannot easily quantify. In India, investment in non-industrial projects, investment in non-industrial projects means what? Investment in irrigation, health project, education project are made by the central and state government. It means what? Non-industrial project, the central and state government will start. So the allocations of fund are made in annual budget, and development plan are included in the 5 years plan. So in the 5-year plans, the government has allocated the fund that in this specific year we will develop healthcare, we will develop irrigations, educations, and so on and so forth. Now project based on level of technology. As we know that we can start the business based on technology, that is high technological based industry, conventional technological based industry, and low technological based industry or project. So which project would you like to consider under high technological based industry? That is space projects, nuclear projects, and and sophisticated electronic projects. These projects are high technological based projects. These projects involve very high investments. In India, space projects are administered by Department of Space, and nuclear power projects administered by the Department of Atomic Energy. Now, come to traditional or conventional technological projects. These traditional or conventional technological projects are those projects which use known technologies in the process industry, such as steel, sugar, chemical, cement, etc. Most of the products which are produced for use in another industry, or the final products which are used directly by people, come from these conventional technologies. like cement industry. Cement industry is producing cement used by the infrastructural project to construct building, roads, tunnels, and blah blah blah. Not only that, the individual people also use this cement for the construction of house which they will live. So investment in projects that use the technology, conventional or traditional technology is sizable, though not very high. Investment in these traditional or conventional technological based project, the investment is not as high as high technological based industry project. There are several other projects of daily use which do not require very high technology. The products which you use every day, like what? Like soap, detergent, cosmetics. This belongs to low technological project, and the investment required for such projects are not very high. Several products which are reserved for the small scale industry belong to low type technology. So low type technological projects are reserved for small scale industry. Now come to project based on size. We can classify the project as per the size. We know there are three sizes: large, medium and small. So the size may be expressed in terms of plant capacity and the amount of investment. So the projects with a capacity investment of less than 5 crores are regarded as small scale projects, and projects requiring an investment of more than 100 crores are treated as large projects. All these falling between these two limits, that is in between 5 crores and 100 crores, are considered to be medium sized projects. While large and medium sized projects are eligible to receive financial assistance from all India financial institutions, but small sized projects are given financial assistance by state aid financial corporations in obtaining their raw materials and equipments, etc. Now, project based on ownership. We can classify the project based on ownership. Ownership may be three types. Because three types of people involved in this type of business. One is the government, state or central government. That is public sector undertaking. One is Reliance and Coca-Cola, Maruti, private sector undertaking. And third one, with the help of public and private sectors, in collaboration of public and private sector. That is joint sector. So as you know, after independence, government make a policy, that is government industrial policy. First enunciated in 1948 and later revised in 1956. Has given a prominent place for public sector in country's economic development. So at that moment of time, public sector project plays a dominant role in country's economic development. A public sector undertaking is one which is owned by the state. Under the government policy, the railway came under the public sector, followed by airlines also. Later, the former Imperial Bank of India came under the public sector and became State Bank of India. And this was soon followed by the nationalization of life insurance business, leading to the formation of Life Insurance Corporation of India, LIC. The first major projects to come under the public sector are three. In steel projects. What are those? Raulkela Steel Plant, Bhilai Steel Plant, Durgapur Steel Plant. That was established in late 50s. The government allowed the Tata, that is TISCO, and the ISCO to remain under the private sector. In the subsequent years, public sector was expanded to many areas of economic activity. What are those? Public sector was expanded under road construction, power generation, petroleum refining and distribution, shipbuilding, aircraft manufacturing, heavy engineering, heavy electric equipments, and so on and so forth. At one stage, even daily bread manufacture was in public sector. Initially, the consideration for setting up projects under public sector was that private sector which is not in a position to raise the necessary resources required for investment in huge and massive projects like the steel plants, heavy engineering, heavy electric equipment, shipbuilding, aircraft manufacturers, etc. Another consideration was that all investments in basic industries like steel, coal, cement, power, etc. must be only in public sector because these needs heavy investment often. The public sector was to attain commanding heights of the Indian economy. Several thousand crores of rupees have been invested in public sector projects. But the performance of public sector undertakings by and large has been far from satisfactory. While the return from the investment of many of these undertakings was very low, there are many with large accumulated losses. This public sector undertaking can be divided into central government undertakings and state government undertakings. State government undertakings, like their cousins in central government undertakings, are not at all better. State government undertaking, by and large, have become notorious for inefficiency, mismanagement, and low productivity. Undertaking in which state and private sector entrepreneurs are partners means the project in which state and private entrepreneurs are partners. That type of project is known as joint sector undertakings. The main consideration for investment in joint sector project is the desire on the part of the state to utilize the managerial talents and marketing capability of the private entrepreneurs. From the entrepreneur point of view, the joint sector is attractive because it does not have to make all the contribution for its investment. In private sector projects, the ownership is completely in the hand of promoters and investors. While the profit motive is not the primary consideration of public sector undertaking, public sector is not very much interested, and the prime motive is not profit making. But the contrast reverse is true in private sector. It is an important consideration in private sector undertakings to make profit. No entrepreneur would like to invest on a project which does not give him adequate return. There has been several restrictions on the private sector to invest on projects until recently. Private sector is prohibited from making any investment in projects in certain areas of production because they cannot invest in certain areas of production like steel, coal and power. But nowadays, trend has been changed since 1991. The government removed several restrictions. Many industries which comes under the public sector now open to private sector for making investments. Now, project based on purpose. Now, as per the purpose, we may classify the projects. Purpose is to balancing the capacities of production units in the plant. Number 2, modernizing production facilities. Number 3, replacing a substantial part of production facilities. Next, expanding the production capacity of one or more existing products. And next, diversifying into new areas of production or services. Now we discuss one by one each of the project. Balancing projects. What is balancing projects? Balancing project is a project to supplement facilities in one or more sections of a plant to achieve the overall plant capacity. Where the capacities of different production units are not properly balanced, the firm may not be able to operate efficiently and economically due to unutilized capacity in some units. For example, in an integrated steel mill, if the capacity of steel melting shop is more than the capacity of its rolling mills, then the company will be forced either to sell the steel ingots to steel re-rollers or operate the steel melting shop at lower capacity. In such cases, the firm might undertake a project to set up additional rolling capacity in its rolling mills with a view to achieve proper balance between the different production units. The justification for undertaking such a balancing project is the higher price the firm can realize by selling rolled steel products instead of selling the steel ingots at a lower price. In other words, if the value addition that takes place in the rolling mill can pay for the investment on the project, then it is justified. Thus, balancing projects are usually undertaken with a view to achieve not only higher revenue through value addition, but also eliminate or minimize inefficiency due to underutilization of capacity in some production units. Now come to modernization projects. What is modernization projects? Modernization project is a project to replace the previous manufacturing process or technology with a more modern producing process or technology to achieve higher productivity. Why? Because the previous manufacturing process or technology is now outdated or maybe high costs. So it's not cost effective. So it is wise to modernize the projects, modernize the process, modernize the technology to achieve higher productivity. So the plant set up several years ago, I just told you, because the previous manufacturing process or technology is now outdated. So it incurs high maintenance expenditure. So the plant, which set up several years ago, requires modernization for several reasons. The first reason is the plant has outlived its utility, which leads to higher maintenance expenditure just to keep the plant functioning. As a result, the operating cost increase and the product may cease to be cost effective. Second, the production process or technology keeps changing and improving. So if we stick on the outdated technology, then you cannot survive in the market. So, to remain competitive and produce at a reasonable price, the company cannot afford to continue with obsolete technology. So, modernization becomes inevitable for any firm, any organization to take advantage of the new technologies or processes, new input materials, production methods, etc. And you have a recent example is the Tisco. Tisco's modernization project undertakes a few years ago. The modernization may allow improvement to the product by adding some new features. The main consideration, however, for undertaking modernization project is to continue in the business and compete effectively. So if you want to continue in the business and you want to compete with the competitors, you have to shift from the obsolete technology to a modern technology. Otherwise, you will be out from the market. Next one is replacement or maintenance projects. A project to replace one or more of the equipments or part of the plant, either because they have become unserviceable or because of high cost of maintenance. So replacement or maintaining projects are similar to modernization projects, but their scope and magnitude is relatively small compared with modernization project. While modernization project usually covers the entire plant, replacement project covers only a part of the plant. This is the difference between modernization project and replacement project. Modernization project considers the whole plant, but the replacement project covers only part of the plant. For example, in an electric power generation plant, the replacement of a turbine is a typical example of replacement project. So replacement of major equipments in a plant become necessary when the equipment suffers from obsolescence. So the consideration for undertaking replacement project is the desire to maintain the same or better level of operational efficiency. Maintenance project slightly different from replacement projects. When certain equipments are subject to major overhaul lasting several weeks, there will be some loss of production because it takes several weeks for major overhaul. So in this period, maybe there is some loss of production, but the overhaul of equipment is essential, mandatory. Otherwise, the equipment may break down or cause some serious damage. Such major overhauls are treated as maintenance projects because they involve several activities requiring coordination between different departments and people, procurement and use of materials and equipments. An outstanding example of maintenance project is the relining of blast furnace. The relining of blast furnace is an integrated steel plant. So the lining inside the furnace consists of ceramic bricks which can withstand high temperature, have to be replaced every few years, and a new set of ceramic bricks laid inside the furnace. This relining work takes a few months and requires the efforts of several departments. Which departments? General maintenance department, electrical maintenance department, mechanical maintenance department, piping, and so on and so forth. The entire work has to be coordinated and organized similar to a project. The application of project management, tools and techniques to blast relining has reduced the total timing for relining work, thereby reducing substantially the downtime of blast furnace. Both replacement and maintenance projects must be undertaken to maintain production at acceptable efficiency. Now come to expansion project. Expansion project is a project to expand the present capacity of the plant. Why you expand the present capacity of the plant? Maybe the demand of the product may increase. So a company may seek to enlarge its plant capacity with a view to produce large volume of its current product range. Products undertaken with this aim are considered as expansion projects. An important consideration for undertaking expansion project is the intention of the firm to meet an anticipated growth in demand for the product or to increase its market share for the product. Because if you will not expand the projects, it means you will not meet the anticipated demand of the product in future. This expansion project can be of different types. For example, a foundry producing iron and steel casting may expand by setting up a machine shop and a structural shop. The machine and structural shops use the iron and steel casting produced in the foundry. This is one type of expansion. A firm which depends on electric power to a large extent, as in the case of aluminum manufacturers, may choose to set up a captive power plant for assured supply of electric power. When external source of power supply become unreliable or inadequate, so thus where the firm seeks to set up facilities for producing products or services which constitute the critical input for its products are also considered as expansion projects. In these cases, the main considerations for undertaking the expansion project is to assure the supply of critical inputs. And then you may classify the project according to diversification. Diversification means the extension of current operations into related fields or into altogether new fields. A company may seek profitable investment opportunities in altogether new areas because company want to search the investment opportunities, profitable investment opportunities in new areas now. When it undertakes a project to enter into a new area, it is called a diversification project. In 1960, the tobacco giant, that is Indian Tobacco Company Limited, ITC, entered the hotel businesses, a new area which is not at all related to tea business. So this is totally unrelated to its traditional business of tobacco manufacturing. In USA, General Motors, the auto giant company, entered the information service industry. We have a similar example in our country too, that is Telco. The truck manufacturing company has entered the information product industry. Which type of product this Telco information product industry is producing? Turbo Analyst, a case, computer aided software engineering. This is a case tool produced by the information product division of Telco, is marked both in India and abroad. Recently, another truck manufacturing unit, that is Ashok Leyland, has entered in the business of power generation. It is currently engaged in setting up a 1,000 megawatt power project at Visakhapatnam. There are numbers of examples to show that company have diversified from their traditional fields. Brook Bond India, traditional in the business of producing and marketing tea and coffee, now entered the business of food processing. So the major consideration for diversifying is to spread its investment sources, resources and risk, and increase its revenue from the different areas where investment has been made. So each of the above types of project has been classified on the basis of purpose and appropriate considerations for making investment on those projects. This is all about the classification of projects. So now if you have any doubts to understand that how we classify the projects, you are free to write comment under the current comment box in YouTube or Facebook, so that I will get privilege to rectify your problem, solve your problem in the next lectures. Thank you very much. And one thing I don't want to forget, that please keep yourself safe, stay at home, don't go outside, because there is no options you have. If you want to make yourself safe, there is a mandatory for you to stay at home. Otherwise, you don't know with whom you are going to meet. Maybe the person with whom you are going to meet may be corona infected person. So why you want to put yourself in trouble? So generally you don't go outside, and try to stay at home and keep yourself safe in this critical moment of time. This time is very much critical, and we want to win over this critical moment of time only when we will stay at home. Thank you very much. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye. Take care. Thank you very much.